Hello, my name is Jared Shook, and I'm speaking today to draw attention to the fact that our conservative Harper-led majority government has attempted to forego the natural democratic process of rational deliberation and informed debate concerning a significant policy change regarding our criminal justice process in Canada. How they've attempted to do this is by really trying to rush through, drive home the Omnibus Crime Bill, Bill C-10, the Safe Streets and Communities Act, which contains under that umbrella of the bill numerous significant policy changes regarding our criminal justice process. Very much limiting the amount of time that could be spent studying each bill separately and its social and economic consequences. Our government has attempted to do this despite the objections from our criminal justice community, those who probably are the most authoritative individuals to truly judge the effectiveness of such a policy change, seeing as how they're the frontline workers. I'm speaking about judges, lawyers, as well as criminological professors. They've all publicly stated objections to this bill, citing it as being a very hasty, reactive, likely ineffective piece of policy. That will ultimately result in significant social and economic consequences. Now, with this amount of objection from our professional community, we really need to ask ourselves why it is that the government would continue to seek the enactment of such a policy. And we as Canadian citizens also need to maintain a critical outlook on what the true goals of our government are. And we need to be very mindful, I think, as well, of the fact that the government has really attempted to demonize the group, the population that this bill most affects, and it has really preyed on the public fear to gain public support for this policy. I remember reading an article in the newspaper that said that the Tory crime bill, the conservative crime bill, energizes their base and appeals to swing voters. And I really thought about that afterwards, and I thought about the word appeal and what it is about this policy that appeals to anybody. If we look back to comments made by our correctional investigator, Howard Sapers, who has made a very important comment about the amount of violence that the prison population is currently seeing as a result of overcrowding, 60% rise actually in violent incidents, deaths, and self-injuries, and we frame that and we say, you know, when Vic Tace, the Conservative Public Minister of Safety, responds to that by saying that this is what Canadians have voted for, we got to ask what it is that's appealing about continued violence within the confines of a democratically run Canadian institution. What it is that's appealing about targeting the people that have been living already in the most deprived circumstances, who have historically faced the most social barriers, and in the particular case of our Aboriginal population, atrocities at the hands of our government, to allow them to come in front of this system, to kind of force them into the circumstances that lead to criminal acts. If we look at our Aboriginal population, who make up only 3% of the Canadian population, but nearly 17% of the prison population, it really draws attention to the amount of injustice that we see through this type of policy, really targeting the most marginalized people in society. So I think we really need to start looking at an alternative outlook on the criminal acts and the criminal and who these people are. I think we need to start looking at the causes of criminality rather than condemning the individuals for the actions that we're seeing today, and putting forward this policy that really is like, as Plato would describe in the Republic, cutting off a hydra's head. A hydra is a mythical Greek monster that when you would cut off one of its heads, 3 new heads would grow in its place. So it's really like fighting an unwinnable battle. We need to start looking at the root causes of this criminality that we're seeing in our society. Now, I'd like to mention that my name is Jared Shook, and particularly I feel a strong stake in drawing attention to what the government is trying to do here One, because I truly believe in the democratic process, and two, because I've personally spent time in federal custody, and I'm coming towards the end of a 5-year, 9-month prison sentence, which I'm currently serving on parole. I've been fortunate enough to begin educating myself as I achieve a Bachelor of Social Work degree, and I feel very strongly that I have a responsibility to relate my education to my experience and use that to assist in this struggle in any way that I can. So what I'd like to do is really just encourage the public to take the time to become informed and continue on this debate and raise your concerns and question this government and its ideologically driven policy and see where that leads you. I'm not saying that I have all the answers, because I certainly don't, and I don't say that any one specific group has the answers. But I think if we look at the consequences of this policy and the effects that we're seeing already and that we're going to see, we very much can realize that we need to start reprioritizing how we handle our criminality in Canada. And mainly, like I said, the best way of going about that is looking at the root causes. Gabor Mate, who is a renowned physician addictionologist who also publicly states his objections to our criminal justice process in Canada, offers us a very unique and I think very relevant way of accounting for why it is that people come in front of the criminal justice system, why it is that people make the same mistakes over and over again. And how he frames that is by looking at the issue from a biological, psychological, and social cultural perspective. He offers us evidence of how the early experiences contribute in a large way to biological brain development and what that means for natural neurological function. If we look at the addictions that people are facing and the type of drugs that they're addicted to, we can see very clearly that in many cases, it's an issue of self-medication because of a poor developmental opportunity as a child. For even an example, I will give you a child staring into its mother's eyes while breastfeeding contributes in large measure to that child's natural ability to develop the chemical dopamine, which is one of the main chemicals that people seek when they abuse drugs such as cocaine or methamphetamines. And if we bring it on to looking at the issue psychologically, psychology being the way that we think, the way that we feel, and the way that we act, and we look at how children have experienced life growing up, the developmental opportunities that have been given to them, some of the atrocities that they've had to face, and how that affects the way that they think and feel later on in adulthood, and how that limits their ability to make the right decisions. And then, to also highlight social culturally, if we look at the climate right now, the social cultural climate, culture is really just the knowledge, language, values, customs, and practices that have been passed on from one generation to the next. And our values now, it seems, are very much shifting to the right wing. We're becoming more retaliatory, more punitive, and we're moving away from humanizing this population, the criminal population. So I think when we start looking at the issue with a fresher perspective, we get a better appreciation for what it is that we're truly facing in our society and where we need to start devoting the resources that we're devoting to criminal justice by way of punitive policy, and that we should be devoting to supporting the development of children, supporting families, providing additional educational opportunities to them. So, like I said, I'm not offering the all-encompassing opinion of this issue. I just like to contribute one piece of that discussion that is not taking place because our government, as I said, has attempted to forego our natural democratic process by rationally deliberating about the social and economic consequences of this bill. And I encourage you to take the time to think things through as well for yourself. So thank you very much for listening to me today, and have a good day.